Good morning, Joy Nostalg, and welcome to another Mastery Monday. And I'm very happy to be back here with you again, and I hope you all had a very restful weekend to recharge you for the week ahead. We will now pray the Joy Nostalg prayer. We begin our prayer in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father in heaven, we adore and praise you for keeping us safe yesterday, today, and in the days to come. We, the Joy Nostalg family, humble ourselves before you to serve you as your instruments and to become bearers of your light to those in need. Teach us to be leaders by example, to uplift and to inspire with humility and openness. Gift us with resilience of mind and spirit to grow in the face of adversity and pain. Endow us with passion to ignite love and compassion where there is none. Grant us spiritual strength to spring courage to those who are weak and fallen, and bless us with a generous heart to give joy and hope regardless. Let your light shine, O Lord, at the center of each family. May this light enable them to envision a brighter path, creating moments of happiness that will lead to memories of hope. Let your love radiate to those we have sworn to serve, the homeless, and may everything we do bring you unending praise and glory. For it's by being your servants in a world torn by fear and doubt do we live out CHRISTUDE. Lucet Lux et Febret Amor, we ask these through the most holy name of our Lord Jesus. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. We now recite the Joy Nostalg Pledge. Together, we, members of the Joy Nostalg Group, vow to embody our CHRISTUDE values as we live out our mission and vision. By placing God at the center of all our business, we pledge to cater to moments of happiness and create lasting memories of hope to serve and uplift the Filipino people. From building a home to powering a home to making everywhere feel like home, we answer our call, shine light and radiate love. Together, we empower and create a Filipino community that will flourish today and for generations to come. So again, everyone, welcome to Mastery Monday. No, and for this month, again, our theme is unity. And we're very lucky this month, this Monday rather, that we will have a speaker who is again no stranger to us, someone who is very familiar to us in the JNG community. For today, we will feature our Group Chief Legal Officer, Atty. Marian Coquia-Regidor. Atty. Marian will enter her talk on the importance of collaboration in the midst of crisis and will share with the JNG community knowledge and attitudes needed to live out our value of the month, unity. So without further ado, let's all welcome Atty. Marian. Good morning, ma'am.
Morning, everyone. Hi to the panelists, most especially to everyone who's dialed in. Happy Monday.
Welcome, ma'am.
Well, thanks for the gracious introduction, Jello. But before anything else, it's my turn to introduce you to the Apple Underdogs. Jello, take it away.
So before we begin with the presentation, allow me to share this video to everyone.
Thanks, Jello. Well, hopefully that woke you up. Good morning again, Joy Nostalg family. The Apple Underdogs. Now, that was an Apple commercial. I am not promoting Apple products, which is what that commercial might have persuaded you to do. Today, I'm going to talk about unity, one of our CHRISTUDE values. Do you think the Apple Underdogs team did well? The ad actually doesn't show us what happened at the meeting with Vivian, their boss. The goal was to create an innovative round pizza box. But the story isn't really about that. The real story is about how the team galvanized themselves into action, pulled together over a frantic 2 days, and united to reach their goal. What did you observe about this team? Just looking at their faces, it was diverse. They appear to have different backgrounds, different situations at home, with family, different ways of dealing with pressure. Yet as soon as they realized that the crisis was actually a rare opportunity for them to show the stuff that they're made of, they each committed to achieving the goal. They were focused on creating the round pizza box, but they were also supportive of each other. With all their quirks, they were kind and empathetic towards each other. Within this team, there was a variety of ideas, talents, and skills. Yet they found a way to bring together all those unique contributions. At the closing scene, as they stepped into the elevator with their game faces on, they looked like they had already won. Because in that journey, up to that point of reckoning, they were already united. What does unity mean? Is unity about achieving uniformity, like minds, just similar approaches across the group, members taking the same strategies, executing a predetermined goal? According to Father in his Wellness Wednesday talk last week, no, uniformity is not unity. Is it collective efficiency? Do we forge unity just by bringing together high-performing individuals? Is it about making sure that people do their jobs without minding others? Each one of us just plodding away, working on our own roles, our own tasks, moving like clockwork just to accomplish the set objective. Maybe it works in certain situations like here, the pit stop of an F1 race, where each crew only has about 12 to 16 seconds, and sometimes towards the end of the race, only 3 seconds. But is it the same for the workplace? In the past few days, we have listened to so many meaningful insights about unity. Unity as an expression of love, unity by making authentic connections, unity through co-creation, as Marvin last Friday explained. Today, I wanted to build on those learnings and talk about strategies for promoting collaboration and teaming, forging unity when it matters the most. Unity in crisis, yes, but also beyond the crisis. Unity in our everyday, unity within our team and across teams, with people we don't typically work with, or even teaming up with strangers when necessary. I've been with J&G for only 5 months, so I wanted to share a unity challenge from my past life. About 7 years ago, if you can find me in that picture, this is with my former company. I was tasked to revive our CSR, our Corporate Social Responsibility Program. Previously, our budget was spent on only one project. So 2 million was spent on one school, a public school in Camarines Norte. We donated computers, which ended up not used by the students. Instead, were taken over by government officials. So I kept on raising questions at a meeting about the program. My boss, who was an expat, flew in from Chicago, said, "You seem so interested in CSR, why don't you lead it?" So because of that, I ended up having the responsibility of reviving CSR. I was given the same budget and I could recruit anyone that I wanted into the team. But it is harder than that sounded. Working on the CSR program was voluntary, and it would add hours to our already hectic work schedule. There was no additional compensation, no overtime for CSR. In case of conflict with business demands, CSR was not a priority. Also, several departments already had their own CSR projects. They were perfectly happy with the status quo. IT had a mountaineering and tree planting project. Our marketing team then actually sponsored some scholars in public schools and so on. Lastly, at that time, I didn't have a huge local team. Most of the people on my team were in Europe, the US, Singapore, other parts of the world. I had to build a CSR team in Manila from scratch and borrow people in time from existing teams. I had my own ideas about running CSR. I wanted it to be efficient, operationally excellent, highly visible, impactful, innovative. But those were my ideas. And from the start, I decided this CSR program should not be about me, should not revolve around me. I may set the stage, set the tone, model the energy, the level of enthusiasm, but it should always be owned by every member of the CSR core team and by our volunteers. We started with a small, lean team of people who were passionate about community service. Then we asked ourselves, why are we doing this? What causes matter the most to us? Is it protecting the environment? Helping poor families have decent homes? Making quality education accessible? We conducted a survey to know what causes and advocacies resonated the most in our organization. Then we stepped up an awareness raising campaign, running social media, launching logo and shirt design contests. We even adopted the Starbucks sticker card so that every volunteer had a CSR passport they can be proud of. We convinced managers that allowing their staff to join CSR activities actually boosted morale. It was not a waste of time. It boosted productivity. We worked across departments and stitched together a unified program because we knew that for CSR to be successful, we had to capture their minds and hearts. From a single project, we supported 2 and then 3 schools for Brigada Escuela, held regular coastal cleanups along Manila Bay. We even hosted read-alongs with the Philippine Daily Inquirer and created the first STEM lab at a non-science public high school in Metro Manila. What started as a handful of core team members and 20 volunteers grew to over 800, engaging 80 to 90% of our staff. Looking back now, I wanted to draw lessons about what made that team click. What makes teams click? And that process led me to 2 of the most innovative companies in the world, Google and Pixar. Those are our 2 case studies for this morning. We all know them. They are trailblazers and game changers. But these 2 companies are also admired and studied as models of collaboration. So they are both innovative and collaborative. Years ago, Google launched Project Aristotle to unlock the code of what makes an effective team. What makes a dream team? Why Aristotle? Because he's widely credited to have coined the phrase, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So Google selected its best and brightest to find out what makes the perfect team. How do we build it? How do we make a super team? Over 2 years, this project conducted 200 plus interviews, studied 180 Google teams, and analyzed over 250 different team attributes. What did their research reveal? Was there some magic formula for assembling a team? To the contrary, no. There was no clear pattern for the people that made up a successful team. You could throw in together top engineers, PhDs, scientists, finance experts, marketing wizards, all sorts of geniuses. You won't instantly have a dream team. It turns out that the success does not depend on the team members. Instead, what matters more is how the members of the team interact with each other. As long as members treat each other a certain way, a certain culture, that team will gel. 5 factors emerged. You know 4 of these factors very well. Dependability. Team members get things done on time, meeting or exceeding expectations. Structure and clarity. Successful teams set clear goals and well-defined roles. Who works with whom? Who's in charge of what? Meaning, the work has personal significance to each member. Every member of the team has a personal connection to the vision, the objective. And 4th, impact. The team has purpose. The work they do benefits a greater good and makes a difference. These 4 factors are not new to us. Whether as team members or leaders, we know it matters when we strongly identify with the team's goal, when we embrace the vision, personalize the connection to our own role and responsibilities. But it was the 5th factor that turns out to be most significant. It had the greatest impact of all, according to the research by Google. It was psychological safety. It means creating an environment where members of the team feel safe. 2 things in particular mattered the most. First, equality and conversational turn-taking. The teams where each member spoke at approximately the same amount of time, for example, at meetings, is much more likely to succeed. But it's not enough. You also need to ensure that everyone on the team is listening more. So the second factor is ostentatious listening. And this is not just the obligation of the leader. Every one of us has this obligation. We should genuinely listen and show that we are listening. We can do this by nodding, closing our laptops, setting aside our phones and gadgets so we can make eye contact. We can repeat, affirm, and build on what is being said. That's how we can be an ostentatious listener. Now, Google's research concluded that if our team applied these 2 characteristics, equality and conversational turn-taking, and ostentatious listening, we create a psychologically safe place. And when people in our group feel psychologically safe, think of it. What happens? If you're in a group where you feel psychologically safe, doesn't it unlock your best ideas? Doesn't it help you overcome challenges? We suddenly have greater willingness to work together. Even our capacity to innovate increases. Just going back to my experience with CSR team in my previous job, within the core team, we would take turns facilitating the meeting, and each one serve as a lead for a key service stream. Instead of taking the traditional approach where I was the only spokesperson for the program, we actually took turns. Every team member was trained to be an ambassador for CSR, with the courage and ability to stand up before hundreds of members at a department town hall, no matter what rank they occupied in the firm. Actually, some of our staunchest and most effective promoters were not managers. They were assistants, specialists, junior people, young people who were mentored to be not just speakers, but organizers and leaders. Doing that gave everyone a stronger sense of ownership for the program across the company. We also institutionalized listening. At first, it was uncomfortable and felt forced, but as we got to know each other, and many free lunches later, it came naturally. It was through ostentatious listening that we found some of the quirkiest and even the best ideas. Like for Brigada Escuela, it's usually very hot, early in June or late in May. So we thought about bringing in a sorbetero and also blind masseuse to our Brigada Escuela site. as a regulated reward for our very exhausted volunteers. Our second case study is Pixar animation. Now, if Google teamwork is about creating safe spaces, Pixar is widely recognized for mastering the art of big group collaboration, especially for complex projects. Can you imagine how much work goes into every Pixar animated film? Every Pixar movie requires about 50 to 60,000 drawings, done by hand and executed by the most cutting edge of technologies. Every angle, every moment, the sounds, the music, the lighting on each character's face, all those minute details of every frame, every shot are created and plugged into the story by writers, artists, animators, musicians, directors, creative people. It takes 3 to 4 years for 600 or more creatives to complete a Pixar film. The leaders at Pixar created a collaborative process that was unlike any in the filmmaking industry. To ensure top-notch quality, they gathered a pool of people, and any person in it had the power to identify a problem at any time and, in effect, pull the cord to stop the line. They call this the Pixar Brain Trust. The Brain Trust was not an oversight body or a vanguard of quality. It was more of a resource to help bring out the best possible version of a movie. The president of Pixar at that time, Ed Catmull, explained that the Brain Trust gave sharp and honest feedback, but never brutal feedback. When the group accepted that they were peers, giving each other feedback and sharing learnings, the dynamic changed. Ed Catmull said, telling the truth is difficult, but inside a creative company, it is the only way to ensure excellence. 2 key takeaways from Pixar. Assemble a brain trust and encourage honest, constructive feedback. And secondly, I think maybe more important, separate your self-worth from the worth of your ideas. At a meeting, if you're scared of bringing up an idea you strongly believe in, think about this. I'm sure we've all been in that place, diba? Takot na takot ka, mag-raise ng hand or to explain something that's maybe quite new. Our fear often overcomes us. But think about this. Your value to the organization is not tied to the value of your idea. If your idea flies, great. If not, it's not the end of the world. The discussion was just made richer by what you said. And those who hear your idea, who listen to you, should do the same. Separate self-worth or the worth of the individual from the worth of the idea. Analyze, evaluate the idea or the opinion, but always, always respect the person. So now you have a working team, your dream team in progress. What next? Will your team withstand the challenges thrown your way? Can our team survive a crisis? Let's look back at moments in our lives, our own lives, when we went through a personal or family crisis. Why? Because a crisis can reveal so much about ourselves and our relationships. I'm sure some of you will be able to identify from what tragedy, what disaster this picture was taken. The first time I knew how I would react to a life-threatening crisis was during Typhoon Ondoy. We are now in September, so 11 years ago na pala, halos. I still vividly remember the early hours and the long days of Typhoon Ondoy. It was the first time I experienced a flood. Never ko na-experience na magkaroon ng baha. So at first, we actually took it quite lightly. As water slowly crept into our kitchen and living room, I even joked about wearing a swimsuit. In fact, I think I actually got my swimsuit and wore it. An hour later, as heavier rain poured, we realized this was no ordinary typhoon. My husband, who's an engineer, ever cool and calm, moved some valuables and turned off circuit breakers. I, on the other hand, I didn't panic, but my survivalist instinct just quickly kicked in to full gear. I made a checklist of essentials, orchestrated the transfer of our stove, replicated our kitchen on the second floor. We packed the dog food, all our other essentials, clothes from the laundry area, all to the second floor. The flood water from Ondoy actually almost breached our second floor. So we were stuck there for days. I thought of the worst possible scenarios. What if we had to jump into the muddy water in the dark, and then all our kitchen knives were floating in the flood? Will we have to punch out our way through the aircon vent and dive into the water, which almost reached the ceiling of our ground floor? It's funny now, but that was my way of dealing with crisis. Our office email server was down, so I communicated with my team just to make sure that they're okay. We did that via Facebook. Calls for fundraisers, relief, and cleanup drives were all made on social media. It took us years to recover from Ondoy. We couldn't sleep every time rain poured, for fear that we would be swept away in the middle of the night by raging waters. Thankfully, now we live in the mountains, so now we live in Antipolo. Pag bumaha pa sa Antipolo, end of the world na siguro. A crisis can be traumatic for us as individuals, but it can also be traumatic for a team. We know that organizations need many unique cross-functional perspectives to solve complex, rapidly changing problems. But how does a team typically behave in a crisis? Anxiety makes people more risk-averse in a crisis, less likely to seek out perspectives different from our own. A research done and featured in the Harvard Business Review called this threat rigidity. We all tend to fall back on actions and solutions that worked in the past. And as a result, the drive towards consensus shuts down paths to critical information. Actually, at the start of the crisis, people are highly engaged and very communicative. But as the team works towards completion, collaboration tends to break down. Now that's too bad. The same research also shows this. In a study of teams during and after the Asian financial crisis in 2007-2008, the research shows that the most highly collaborative workers, on this graph, that's the blue line, the top 10% actually grew their business during the crisis. The middle group, the green line in this chart, declined slightly in terms of revenues during the crisis. But then revenue started to recover within a year. Now the bottom 70%, the yellow line, the least collaborative, what did they do? They hunkered down, worked less with others, they guarded their clients, they hoarded work and information. What happened to the revenues? In the crisis, the revenues of this group actually sank and did not recover 5 years after the recession ended. And this was the same pattern that emerged in similar organizations. Why did this happen? As uncertainty and stress mounted during the crisis, the highly collaborative people evolved. They adapted their approach to business, to developing new opportunities and executing work. They expanded their network. They broke down silos. They worked with more colleagues. They were willing to pitch in on other people's projects. They teamed up, pursued more opportunities, even if it meant sharing the glory with others. As a result, they ended up on a wider variety of clients and projects compared to those who focused only on themselves. On the other hand, the self-focused, the uncollaborative people took a wholly different approach. They erected walls around themselves, their projects, pushed colleagues away, held their business and clients closely, and hoarded work. As a result of their self-interested behavior, their network diminished. They had no tribe to help bring them into existing and new opportunities. What does this teach us? This research shows that collaboration actually leads to sustainably higher commercial performance. So collaboration doesn't only make you feel good, psychologically safe, boost morale, it actually makes more money in the longer term. The conclusion, the degree of collaboration during a crisis has a huge impact on whether companies and individuals thrive. If we have unity in our organization, we have a much better chance of overcoming a crisis and recovering more quickly and sustainably. The same research recommended 7 strategies for promoting collaboration in a crisis. I'm not going to walk through all of these. You're actually familiar with many of them, and we talked about them earlier in this talk. Encouraging questions, even naive questions. Encouraging constructive challenge. Watching out for hoarding behaviors, especially hoarding of information opportunities. Connect with the front lines. You have to be close to the pulse of the business. Get team members, get ourselves to reflect on our preferred ways of working. Find new ways of working if the existing ones don't work well. Play to our strengths, not dwell on our weaknesses. Champion collaborative leaders and teams, recognize them, celebrate big and small wins. I wanted to focus on this one. Reinforce the business's purpose and goals frequently. It's not just about restating and repeating the vision or goals of the organization. It means frequently reminding ourselves of the why. Why are we doing this? What is our true north? Now, our personal true north may be different across the team. That's perfectly fine. But we should also know and keep returning to our team's true north. For me, one constant reminder of that true north in the workplace in J&G are the faces on this slide. The families whose lives are changed because of the commitment of every one of you in J&G. Let's review our unity and collaboration toolbox, drawing lessons from Google, Pixar, and our own moments of crisis. 1, to build our dream team, we should create a psychologically safe place where everyone on the team can shine. Remember equality in conversation turn-taking? Let's make sure everyone has a voice. 2, be an ostentatious listener. 3, encourage honest, constructive feedback. Graciously receive it, and also graciously share it. 4, remember to always separate self-worth or the worth of an individual from the worth of ideas. Give candid feedback, but always be kind and respectful to the person. 5, share information, resources, and networks. That leads you to 6, bridge silos, not create them, because bridging silos will help you multiply opportunities. And last, always return to the why, your true north. Now, obviously, we are in a crisis. This pandemic has made us experience a crisis we've never experienced before. What keeps you calm? What keeps you centered? A passage I grew up with comes from Saint Teresa of Avila. Let nothing disturb you, nothing frighten you. All things are passing. God is unchanging. Patience gains all. Nothing is lacking to those who have God. God alone is sufficient. Our true north will inspire us, and our team will be our wings. To end, just wanted to share this video, which many of you may have seen before, but it's worth taking a look again. So again, we are never alone, and nothing can stop what we can do together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Attorney, for that very meaningful and very, very timely talk. No? And it's true what you said. All the more we need unity now that we are undergoing this really, really huge crisis. No? And what spoke to me personally was psychological safety. In other words, knowing that everyone in that meeting, everyone in this group has a stake in what we're going to do as a company. The more you're heard, the more opportunity you have to voice out your thoughts, the more involved you feel. And that makes you collaborate with each other, which will bring out many long-term advantages. So once again, thank you, Attorney Marian. I'd like to call on my co-MC for this morning. He is the head of the Information Management Group, Mr. Erwin Bersalona. Good morning, Sir Erwin. Welcome.
Good morning, Jello. Good morning, Atty.
So, Sir Erwin, Marian's talk. What are your thoughts?
Thank you very much, Atty. Marian, for a very inspiring and insightful presentation. I was blown up with the information about Google and Pixar and how you're able to pull through a quite challenging task to lead a CSR team that really started from 20 to grows to a number of people behind it or go through it. And also, I learned one important word, ostentatious. Yes, I'm not aware of it at any. So I only know empathetic listening. So I learned one now, ostentatious. So it's really, this session is going to help us in this time of pandemic, where unity and collaboration is really an important thing to us. Not a lot of companies now are really on the edge of losing out their businesses, but in J&J, we're trying to grind it out to this pandemic, and we tried through the help of our management to really stick it out, and with the help of our values, we stay united and collaborated.
Okay, thank you for that, no, Sir Erwin. And I believe, Sir Erwin, we have other panelists with us. No, Sir, would you mind? And I invite panelists to turn on your videos and your audio, please.
Yeah,
Sir Erwin, who do we have with us this?
We have several panelists for today. They are Miguel Zozobrado, the Director of Sales from HDU. And we also have our Recruitment Management Head, Nadine Agustin. And also we have a Project Assistant from FDU, Samantha Barrel. So I think we start off with Miguel. Is Miguel around?
Yes, sir. Hi, Sir Miguel. Welcome.
Hi, Miguel. Good morning.
Hi. Morning.
Morning. By the way, I just want to say good morning to our GO, Sir June. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
So, Miguel, what do you think about our session today? And do you have any insights on what has been presented to us by Atty. Marian?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Atty. Marian. It was a very fruitful discussion and fruitful presentation. I think it really helped open a lot of eyes and minds as to what's happening, or it's a very good wake-up call for all of us that unity and collaboration is really very important during this time of crisis. I think what struck me most, aside from the two videos that were shown, was how through the years we've actually gone through so many crises already, and through all the years also we haven't really realized how we were able to really recover. But then by pointing out that the importance of collaboration and unity in a team is really what will drive everyone to get through all the crisis. So I think it was also very evident in the first video you showed, the Apple video, that despite the time constraints, they didn't become very reactive to it. Instead, they became very proactive to what they needed to do to achieve their goal in just the 2 days that was given to them. So I think that's something that a lot of us will really, appreciate to implement also within our own teams.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that's right, Miguel. No, in our daily task here in the company or wherever you are, I think being kind and empathetic with each other is really, really important. I think unity will not progress or will not even matter if you're not kind and empathetic with each other. Thank you very much, Miguel. And I'd like to ask Nadine, our recruitment management, what do you think about the session today? And can you share some of your insights about it?
Or maybe perhaps questions if you have. Also to our viewers, if you have questions, go ahead and chat us in the chat box.
Okay.
Good morning, Attorney Marian, Jello and co-panelists and RGO. Thank you, Attorney Marian, for sharing with us the Pixar and the Google success stories, as well as your Escuela story. Okay, based on your sharing, what my favorite was the reinforcement of the business. So frequently, in a way that everybody understands, we are all aligned on where we want to go and how we want there. Okay? And for this, I think we have to commend our company and our leaders, especially our GO, for constantly doing this through like webinars we're doing. So it constantly reminds us that of how we want to build affordable homes for those without shelter. So that's one thing that I really like about Attorney Marian's talk. And for our part, it's clear to us in our department for recruitment that we're hiring because there is a vacancy that will become a part of these people who will form homes. And without those, we don't have anything to offer to customers. So it matters to us that we understand where we want to be, how we want to collaborate with the different teams. Because as we know, we hire for the different departments, or most departments, Joy Nostalg. And this involves interacting and coordinating and definitely collaborating with the different teams. So if there's something that is lacking, for example, in terms of requirement, we have to have this mindset of how do we assist? How do we collaborate in order to complete this hiring, to get to do this right person, right profile in the right seat at the right time. So I think that's pretty much. Thank
Thanks.
you.
If I can just interject and react to that as well. Thanks for bringing up, Nadine, the repeating, constantly reminding ourselves of the purpose. I think it must have been weeks ago, maybe more than a month ago, when I was really just feeling so exhausted and so stressed. And in one meeting, one of the meetings for one of the events, a video of one of the families who moved into one of our communities was shown. And I'm not joking, I really sobbed, as in really heavy, ugly cried. To me, it was a reminder of what convinced me that this was an organization that I would not just work with, but it was a cause that I was willing to fight for as well, personally. So we may have our own ways of doing that, reminding ourselves, reminding our teams. May not be as dramatic as that. Ako lang naman yung iyakin. It can be very simple, but we do try to do that as often as we can.
Right. Thank you, Attorney Marian. No? Thank you for that. And thank you, Ms. Nadine and Sir Miguel, for your insights and sharings. No? So, Sir Erwin, text to
Yeah, I think we
share.
still have one more panelist for today, and she is the project assistant from FDU, Samantha Barril. So, Samantha, do you have any insights about our session today?
Yes po. Good morning po to everyone. Thank you for your talk, ma'am. I really learned a lot. The 2 points that really struck to me was the first one is about the psychological safety, because for me it's really important for everyone in the team to feel significant because it reduces the confidence to share ideas to one another. And in any work setting, it's inevitable to have hierarchies naman. But I really liked how you talk about the concept of separating self-worth from the worth of ideas, because even though there might be different ranks, it doesn't mean that your idea is any less than another's. At the end of the day, knowing our whys will allow us to become more collaborative, and it will allow us to become more determined in achieving our goals. So I'm really thankful to, I don't know if he's watching, but I'm really thankful to Sir Marvin because he's my supervisor and he really helps us become more confident in sharing our ideas, because he allows us to know that we're all important and that we're significant in the team. That's all.
Very well said, Samantha. I think really this is important. I mean, a psychological safety in a company is really an integral part of a successful company because, you know, in J&J, I experienced also a psychological safety wherein I can express my ideas freely in a meeting or in an informal assembly. So this gives us an really a comfort of speaking up of what our ideas are, important ideas for the company and also for each other.
Right. And I think what Sam said also, it really emphasizes the influence and power of a leader, no? Whether you are a mere team leader holding a team of 2 or 3 people, or whether you are a CEO, how you conduct your meetings, how you communicate with your people have a huge effect on their psychological wellness, diba? Do you make them feel heard? Do you listen to them? Do you value their inputs, even if it's right or wrong, diba? So, talagang we see the influence of leaders. That's why it's important for our leaders to know, diba? The importance of unity and inspiring unity. So, again, thank you, Sam, and all our other co-panelists. Attorney Marian, I have a question. A while ago,
Sure.
you shared a story about crisis, diba? And for you, it was on Doy. And I think I can also relate to that. I was in college when it happened, and it was
Okay.
devastating. I'm from Marikina. Was from Marikina.
Oh, I see.
Oh,
So, ma'am, you did mention that at the start of a crisis, people's immediate reaction is to unite, collaborate, come together. But you also mentioned that as time goes by, post-crisis, people tend to, lessen collaboration, go their
Yeah.
separate. Why is that, ma'am? Why is that what
Mm.
tend to happen?
I think the initial reaction is that everyone suddenly feels bonded by the crisis. So there's a higher degree of engagement. Everyone's checking up on each other. Are you okay? Everyone's communicating, checking on whether everything is all right with members of the team, or if it's a project, is everything on track still with the crisis? But then as stress mounts, because the crisis doesn't happen in one go, right? It's a spectrum. Parang may timeline yung crisis. Towards the end of the crisis, when you're all pressured to do what needs to be done, suddenly, well, maybe even gradually, there's a stronger tendency to retreat to what you know. Ito na yung nakasanayan ko eh. These are the old solutions that work for me personally. So the tendency is to withdraw onto oneself rather than check on what can possibly be done together with other people on the team. But just because it's a natural or instinctive tendency doesn't mean that we cannot correct it.
Right.
You just have to be aware. So just be mindful. Maybe in the middle of the crisis, towards the completion of a project, do another check-in within our team. Okay pa ba kayo dyan? On track pa ba tayo? Is there anything that we need? Is there anything that we're missing? Engage them again. And
Right.
then try to just soldier on up to post-recovery, post-crisis recovery.
Right. Thank you, Attorney. I asked that because obviously we are in a crisis right now,
Yeah.
diba? And I think that initial reaction, it took place April or May, mga March, April, May. We were all caught by surprise. We were all shocked by it, no? But now that it's September, we are we are settling on this. Hindi naman, I wouldn't say settled or plateauing, no? But we are slowly becoming more and more used to this new normal. Diba? We're
Right.
slowly embracing it more. Diba? The fear is that it might create complacency.
Right.
But I agree with you. Checking up on your team, diba? Asking them, where are you now with what you're doing and how can we help you? Diba? All the more collaboration has to be during this time. We have
Also,
a... Yes, ma'am. Go
sorry.
ahead.
And also, sometimes there may be a need to course correct. What
Mm.
we know at the start of the crisis may be different at the middle of the crisis or towards the end of it.
Mm.
Changes can happen rapidly. So we should never be afraid to recognize that there may be a shift, a pivot in our approach that's needed.
Right. And you know, linked to what you just said, someone here commented, no? Diversity, example, diversity of ideas, experience, background, so avoids monotonical thinking and lessen the chance of walking into a pitfall, right? So all the more we need to hear each other out. And I think here in JNZ we're very blessed. No, you have people from different varied age groups, background, therefore iba-iba perspective. And when I join meetings as a millennial, I'm happy that people also value my ideas, whether it's right or wrong. They value my ideas, and I think that's one good thing from the way we conduct meetings here in JNG. No? So thank you, Tony Marian. Do we have any questions, additional questions or insights from our panelists or our audience?
I mean, I will count myself within the generation of Sir June, although I'm a few years younger. Gen X kami.
I was trying to
The bridge generation.
Well, I just like to give a comment that, well, first of all, Alfie Miras was the one who gave that comment a while ago about diversity. And Alfie Miras is our business development head in our energy development unit. So he's fairly new. He actually joined us only, I think, 1 or 2 months ago? 2 months ago. And I never met him in person yet. Just like Attorney Marian, I've never met Attorney Marian.
We have once. Not well, I think my interview.
Interview yun. That's not
interview.
Not during the formal joining the company. Marian is still a figment of my imagination.
Wag naman. Snuffleupagus.
But at any rate, hindi ko alam kung napapansin niyo ba, may bagong hairdo si Attorney Marian.
Bagay.
So anyway, thank you for that, Marian. I think it was a very insightful talk, and it actually inspired some of the things that I was thinking about that I'd like to also share it with you. And the comments made by our panelists is actually also very enriching. And I really like to sort of put them slightly together because it all made sense. No? Parang the discussion of Marian together now with the panelists, all the way from JM to Nadine and Sam, and of course, both of you, Erwin and Jello. No? First of all, I think we all like that idea about that psychological safety. I think there's some nice buzzwords that came out in this discussion, right? And that's great to have that. And I'd like to use this opportunity to encourage everybody precisely to promote with each other, amongst each other, this respect for psychological safety when we communicate with one another. And if you notice, I've set up a lot of WhatsApp group that are very topic. It's either topic oriented or group oriented. I do have also one-on-one WhatsApp with you, and perhaps some of you also have one-on-one WhatsApp with the others. But most of all my WhatsApp, if you look at my WhatsApp, it's all group related. That's the whole point of WhatsApp or Viber, is that you are able to communicate. It's the very, very effective means of communication, right? Especially now that we cannot meet face to face. Especially now that it's not very easy to just remind each other that suddenly when we have something that is in something like in WhatsApp, then or Viber or these communication platforms, it's easier to collaborate. The information is there all the time. It's not the only way. That's why we still have this. We try to meet as face to face as possible, but it is definitely one of a good means. And what do I encourage there, which unfortunately until now I still look forward to, and perhaps after today's session, we will understand a little bit more. I've always encouraged what I call transparent, open, and professional top, TOP, right? Be transparent. Say whatever it is that needs to be said. State the facts that needs to be stated. Give the information that is needed. So that is what we mean by transparency. Be open. Do not. Don't have to. You don't have to feel any inferiority, regardless of who you are. And I guess that's what that psychological safety really comes in. Be very open about what it is that you want to say. On the other hand, right, number 3 is be professional. Meaning to say, speak, share your thoughts and ideas, comments, criticisms professionally, right? So don't backstab, don't be what do you call this? Don't sort of kill the person, right? Criticize the idea, but not necessarily the person. Don't. So dito na pumapasok na iba walang right? So when you have those ground rules there and understanding, then perhaps it should be a lot safer for us to communicate and collaborate there, right? Or for that matter, not only in WhatsApp, in anything that we do. Like right now, let's be transparent, let's be open, but also at the same time be professional when we speak with one another. And I hope that we give each other that safety by respecting one another, right? Nobody has, and we were talking about something like that ideas. Marian, what was that word that you had about those ideas? Parang, you want to share? Somebody was saying something. There was a word a while ago about ideas. And what I want to contribute to that also is that nobody has what do you call this? Nobody has a monopoly of good ideas, right? Even bad ideas. Nobody has a monopoly of bad ideas. Yeah. Nobody has a monopoly of ideas, period. One of my best example here is this. All of us know what is a function of a house. All of us knows that. You don't have to study architecture to know what comprises a house. And yet all over the world, and that's the most basic thing. If I ask all 10 people what comprises a house, chances are I'll have the same one answer: bedroom, dining room, living room, everything. It's everybody. I ask 1 million people, chances are it's going to be the same answer. Except that you'll never see one house the same as another. Even if we are a developer of all of these houses that look the same, look alike, the moment it's turned over to the person who's going to the family using it, it's different. There is no one house, despite the fact that it functions the same way. Yet there is no one house all over the world that is similar to another, right? So that's just to give you an idea. And then there's nothing wrong. All of those houses are perfectly right. In fact, they were also right because that's how the family wants it to be right. Diba? So that's for me is fantastic proof that there is no nobody has a monopoly of good ideas, right? Unfortunately, also bad ideas, but you know what I'm saying, right? And so I think that this is very important, that the groundwork, that if we are able to communicate with one another and respect one another's ideas, right? Then definitely we can get into that unity. And when we are united, of course, we can do a lot of things much better, di ba? I mean, Marian, you're talking about Gen X, so I guess isama na natin dyan si Nadine. I guess tayo lang siguro nakakaintindi ng Tanduay, ng Ginebra, you know. I think, sorry, Ginebra, right? There was a time when PBA was so hot and so big, and there was a team called Tanduay, and this was headed by Jaworski, who was already, by that time, he's already on his second life. He used to be a very, very star player of another generation earlier than us, called Toyota basketball
Toyota.
team, right? Toyota. And he was a star player. But of course, just like every star player, you retire after a certain age or what. But oh boy, this guy never did think of retiring. I think in history, in PBA history, is the oldest professional player. And so in his second life, he still continued playing, but at the same time, he also coached this team called Ginebra, right? And it had all sorts of players that weren't really great, you know, and they had really the most, the unglamorous, the most unglamorous team, di ba? Sorry to say this, kaya lang walang gwapo doon sa team na yan. Di ba? Medyo barok ang dating ng team na yan and all. But my goodness, everybody loved them, right? They don't win championships. I don't quite remember if they actually won one, or maybe they did. They always came a little close, but most of the time they didn't win any championships. I'm not too sure. I'm not too much of a PBA fan, right? But boy, did everybody love them, di ba? Everybody, every time Ginebra game, puno ang Araneta Coliseum. Because they just really like to watch that team play. Even though medyo hindi ganun ka-sophisticated. As opposed to, at that time, Pure Foods, oh boy, it's all composed of all the superstars. I think at that time you had Benji Paras, Patrimonio, Alvin Patrimonio, and all of that. I think, di ba? I'm not too sure, but basta all the superstars were put in this one giant team, this fantastic team, Pure Foods. And then, kahit hindi ka marunong ng basketball, manonood ka kasi lahat ng nasa Pure Foods gwapo. Di ba? So parang they had everything. Pure Foods had everything, you know, good looks, good talent and all, and they all had it. But he never did. But everybody loved. Right? Because if I don't know with you, but me, I don't. I'm obviously not a basketball person. I'm not athletic. But when that Ginebra came out, I really liked watching PBA at that time because you can really feel the unity of that team, the tenacity of that team. Talagang they'll really fight for every single point. And they do it so well, even sometimes, even winning or challenging, giving a run for this Pure Foods team, because they were really strong and so united. What they lack in talent, they very well made it up much, much more with teamwork, with their sense of unity. And that's the reason why everybody loved them. So I hope that is something that we can do too, that we can experience as well. And Marian, you gave a very nice chart a while ago about you gave a nice chart a while about how teams that are united, companies that had strong unity, in fact grew during difficult times, and not uh, 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 and people who didn't were the ones that really sort of perished. You know? And clearly there was a chart that really dived down, and there was of course those chart that really went steady up. You know, it was such a stark contrast, and it was very nice and interesting that you brought that information up, how unity was a factor for that. You know, I'm not a competitive biker and all, but I'm very conscious when I bike around our place, because you know, I have the most distinctive bike around. There are people around here that bikes, but my bike is the most distinctive one because it's yellow. So it's easily remember. You can easily remember it, no, and see it, and when you see it. And of course, what makes me very, very memorable to others is that I'm the fattest guy also biking. You know, so my bike is not even a mountain bike. It's the, you know, it's the street racer bike. It's the thinnest bike. Even my wheels is thin. You know, you would imagine that siguro sabi napakalaking tao nito, magma-mountain bike man lang siguro yan. No? But no, I'm actually using the thinnest wheel, the thinnest frame, and all. So you can imagine how funny I look, right? It's like I'm that circus. You know that circus. There's always this drawing, circus drawing, wherein an elephant is on a bicycle. You get to remember those drawings. Parang ganun ang feeling ko. I'm this one big giant elephant, and riding on this very thin, tiny bicycle. By any rate, one of the things that I found out is that when I bike, right? When I bike, uh, sometimes I get to be a little competitive in a sense na ayoko mapahiya na, tinan mo, laki-laki niya kaya hindi niya kaya. Di ba? Hirap na hirap siya, hindi niya kaya. So I sort of didn't want people to say that, because seeing me was already very obvious for that. So I kind of want to prove them that I still have some surprise to show them. And so I try biking, okay. And what did I find out? I found out that I find myself gaining more speed, because sometimes what I do is I sort of time myself. And what I found out is that I get more ahead and I gain more speed, right? And so, meaning to say, I travel farther in shorter time. Guess what? When the path is uphill, not when it is downhill. A lot of us will think that when the road is downhill, that everybody will be fast. Well, that's true. Everybody's fast going down, including me. Now, with my center of gravity, talagang mabilis talaga ako going down. But I found out that if you want to get ahead, you actually want to be faster when it's going up, when it's actually harder. Because one thing that I found out, because when I sort of bike with some other people here, what I found out is that it is going downhill is always easy for everybody. Going uphill is always difficult for everybody. So everybody goes fast going down and everybody goes slow going up. That happens to everybody, right? So if you're going to go faster, going down, you're really not really so much gaining ahead because everybody's fast to begin with. So parang your incremental improvement, but it's incremental lang. Mabilis eh. On the other hand, however, if you are faster going up, that's no longer an incremental advantage. It is a huge advantage because everybody is slow, and then here you are, you're going fast. So it's very similar to that chart of yours, Attorney Marian, wherein it is actually if we indeed are truly united, then it is in times of crisis where we are right now that becomes our moment to get ahead. Just when everything is much, much harder, this is the time, this is the moment. May kanta yan, di ba? This is the moment. So this is the moment for us to get ahead. Just when everything is hard and slow for everybody else. But because we are united and strongly united compared to than others, then we can get ahead. Diba? Then we can surpass. Well, number one, we will surpass this challenge. That's the first thing we're going to do. If we're together, we're going to surpass this challenge. And by the way, we are getting ahead, right? And if we are getting ahead, tingnan mo, what's going to happen is magkakaroon ng momentum. And right now, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I keep on in my discussions with our heads, with our leaders. I'm looking for that momentum. You ask me right now, what is it that I really want? I don't want about. I'm not talking about trying to survive. Medyo tapos na yung survival struggles. Nandito na tayo in wanting to get that momentum. Let's just get something going on. Magka-momentum tayo. Because right after that momentum happens, when that momentum happens, you can bet we will follow that chart Attorney Marian showed us. That even though this crisis is going to be hard, we're going to inch up higher. Diba? That's the reason I keep on preparing all of you. Diba? I keep on telling you it's going to be hard, it's going to be hard, it's very clear in my mind that this crisis is going to last far longer than what we all hope for. It already outlasted what we hoped when this crisis started. And I think it's going to last, unfortunately, much, much longer. And that's the reason why it's very important for all of us to talk. It's very important for us not to give up. It's very important for us to come together. Because this crisis is still going to be a long one. If we're going to survive this crisis, we definitely have to be together. But if we want to gain ahead, right, it's the moment for us to gain. And so all the more we need to be together. But also, finally, one last moment, and this is the last point that Marian spoke about that I think was the most beautiful point. And that is, let us always remain focused on what is the true meaning, true purpose, why we're all here together in the first place. Diba? What are we doing here? What we formed the team, we formed an Olympic team just to compete and win a trophy. No, there's none. There's no Olympic team going around. And there's no Olympic Games. In fact, it's canceled this year. Right? There's none. What we're all here for is to make people happy. Is to convert the lives, is to impact on the lives of people who because of poverty are suffering. Right? And so we with what it is that we know, with the capabilities that we all collectively have, with the resources that we all collectively are responsible for, let's empower them. Let's transform lives. Now more than ever, it's very important. We said it, ultimately, housing is the final solution to this health crisis. The only reason why the Philippines until now, which has the longest lockdown in the world, right, is very hesitant, is because hesitant well, not hesitant, but slow to develop, is because no matter what we do, right, we don't have our own homes to protect ourselves and isolate. Remember, this disease requires being isolated, being safe from those that are infected. How can we? We all don't have our own spaces. Diba? A 30% of our entire population do not have their own spaces to contain the disease. So all the more now, all the more. I think 2 months ago we saw that video of that family who said they were in Manila, right, prior to Pasinayo. And what did they say? Had they stayed on, they are sure, they know for sure that they would have been COVID positive and suffering all of this health-wise as well as economic-wise due to COVID. But because they're in Pasinaya, and even with, sabi nila, even though nahihirapan sila in the adjustment in the beginning, okay. Kasi at least ligtas sila, di ba? Ligtas siya, ligtas asawa niya, ligtas anak niya. Right? And I don't know if you found that very touching, because even that son, I don't know, 17 years old if I'm mistaken, was very thankful, and in fact had a very strong faith realization too. So my point there is that let's be focused, because now more than ever, what we do is very important to so many millions of people. In fact, we cannot even address those millions. Nasa thousands pa lang tayo. Nasa low thousands lang tayo. Hindi pa natin magawa-gawa yung mga millions na yan. And yet, that's where the need is. Yung totoong crisis, wala naman sa kalagayan natin. Siyempre, I agree. Nahihirapan tayo, I agree. Kaya lang, guys, mas malakas ang crisis, mas malaki ang crisis sa labas, sa mga pamilyang walang sariling tahanan, sa mga pamilyang walang kuryente. Right? Mas malakas ang crisis sa kanila. Di ba? In fact, sa kanila, it's really not a crisis anymore, right? It's already, it's sunk to a level of devastation already, right? So that's where we have to be focused. And so I hope we build unity amongst ourselves. We have these tools, we have this communication, we have this respect, this safety for one another. And hopefully we have strong leadership amongst ourselves, strong leaders to bring people together. You know, leadership is not about being the brightest in the group. Leadership is the glue to the group. Dapat the leader brings people together. Diba? Hindi katulad na, if you look at the different nations that are suffering greatly from this crisis, those countries have leaders that are very obvious divisive, not unifying. And then you look at all the countries that are doing very well in this crisis, or at least roughly well in this crisis, you can see that those leaders are unifying leaders. By the way, none of these leaders whose countries are doing very well are doctors or medical experts. No, they're the same political leader just like any other country, right? But they were, like what Marian said, they were ostentatious listeners to the subject matter expert, medical doctors. So you have situations like New Zealand, right? You have countries like New Zealand who's done very, very well. You have countries like Singapore who has done very, very well. And that's because leadership there unites. It is not a country, it is not a place, it's not a nation wherein leaders divide. So it's very clear. When you have a team that is united, when you have leaders that unites, that team will get ahead. If that team is even more focused with its mission, with its goal, oh my goodness, that's going to be, they're going to be achieving their goals far beyond their imagination. So with that, thank you very much, Marian, for your discussion, and I hope I've sort of brought things together. This is also my learning from you guys, and I hope you also enjoyed a little bit of that sharing that I had.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Nang. And once again, we'd like to thank Miss Marian, Attorney Marian rather, for your very meaningful and timely talk. And thank you as well to our panelists for being here, Miss Nadine, Sir Erwin, Sir Miguel, and of course, Miss Sam. So, do we have any last questions from the group before we end our session? Okay. Now, before we end our session, I'd like to give a reminder to our audience here. We look forward to hearing your questions now in Viber after this talk, and even in our next succeeding webinars. Our next webinar is this Wednesday, okay? And we hope to entertain your questions there. So if there's nothing more, it's time for us to sing our group's anthem, our group song. So,
well, maybe Jello, final words from Attorney Marian.
Oh, go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I think this discussion and many of the conversations we've had over the past days, these weeks, whether it's on Culture Day or Wellness Wednesday, FF, or MM, all these channels for us to interact, they really enrich not just our individual learnings, but how we connect to the J&G purpose and values. So I really appreciate, Sir June, your being a constant presence in all of these things. It's a rare trait. Not many leaders actually take the time and spend the energy to do that. So thank you for being that to us. Thanks to Jello and Erwin, of course, for being the operations pillars for events like this, for this morning, and the panelists. It's good to meet some of the panelists for the first time, and to everyone who dialed in. I am not an expert in teamwork or collaboration or unity, but I hope that I was able to walk you through some useful concepts, maybe some interesting insights that you could also take home. And I look forward to continually learning from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Attorney Marian, for that. And we look forward to learning more things from you in the months ahead. I'm sure this won't be the last time you'll give a talk for the company. So hopefully,
just give me a heads up so I can blow dry my hair or something.
Yes, ma'am. In the next talk, also about
bihira lang mangyari. Thank you.
So much. So at this point, we will now end our Mastery Monday by singing our group song.
Life seems so simple when your goal is simply to survive. We only had our values, our mission, our vision, following Christ's attitude, and we're calling it CHRISTUDE. Now it's our guide, now it's our pride. Nostalgia is the goal. We are engaged to a greater purpose, making our home as comfort.
calling we must heed, creating spark more and more ever. On all of this, we need to believe that we are lighter and thankfully provided.
Moments of happiness, the memories of hope. Joy is the mission, nostalgia is the goal. We are engaged to a greater purpose, providing happiness in all endeavors. As we move forward, thanking you, Lord. Every step we make, your name we will hold. Shining light, radiating love. For moments we create, our lives we moments of happiness, for memories of hope. Joy is the mission, nostalgia is the goal. We are engaged to a greater purpose, making the homeless
Thank you, panelists. Before we end, let's have a group photo. So panelists, please turn on your videos for a quick photo. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, smile. Okay. So thank you, everyone. So once again, attorney, on behalf of my co-panelists and myself, thank you very much for this wonderful talk, and we look forward to hearing you once again very soon. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. Nice hairdo.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.